When life gets unpredictable, preparation matters. In medicine, it's all about staying alert, ready for whatever comes through the door. On the road, it's no different. That's why Volvo designs vehicles to help anticipate risk, reduce harm, and protect lives. The Volvo XC90's advanced safety systems inspire confident decisions wherever the road takes you. The Volvo XC90, for life. Proud sponsor of the Pit Podcast. Learn more at volvocars.ca/safety.
It's a big deal.
You know what,
We
Amber?
can't be giving some private company who's hustling.
Quebec has never been a wealthy province in terms of income, and it's always been lacking across Canada.
Now we're going to spend 45 minutes a day sorting our recyclables. Not going to happen.
The top stories in the city. The Big Five on the Elias Macco Show. Brought to you by investment advisor Richard Lapointe of CIBC Wood Gundy. Richard Lapointe can always be reached at 847-6324.
What's in a name? What is in a name? There's a lot in a name. Just a business name can set people off. We'll tell you the latest business name that is upsetting some people as they walk along Crescent Street. That's coming up on the Big Five. Trudie Mason's on the show this morning. Hi, Trudie.
Good morning.
David Heurtel's on the show this morning. Hi, David.
Good morning.
Of course, David, former Liberal cabinet minister, now counsel at Fasken. Guys, there's so much to start off with. First off, yesterday's program. David, you weren't here.
No, I wasn't.
I have a bag in front of me.
Yeah,
everybody.
I see
got a
that.
bag. Yesterday's program, right before the show, I'm a little hungry. I'm peckish. So I start eating an apple. The apple is a ginormous Honeycrisp, right? Beautiful
Wow.
apple.
Yeah.
And, so I ate a few bites and then come into the studio, put the apple down. And, Trudie Mason is eyeing this apple all morning. Like, if the roles were reversed, if I was a woman and Trudie was a guy, I'd have gone to HR the way she was looking at the apple. I was like, Trudie, my eyes are up here, okay?
Looks
Stop
so
looking at the
good.
apple.
Looks so
It
good.
looked great. It was a beautiful apple. And Dave Kaufman was on the panel. He also thought it was a nice apple. So Trudie was so in love with the apple that I was eating, the Honeycrisp. I said, you know what? Here you go. I'm bringing you one in.
Oh, that's so kind.
This is an apple for you. Now, but I also
Yum.
said, I'm looking at my fridge this morning. I said, well, I can't just bring one in only for Trudie. David's going to feel like I'm not taking care of him. So here's another apple, okay? Ooh,
Wow.
This one's
Whoa.
even bigger.
These are
Okay.
gigantic. They're
Yeah.
like a pound
On
each.
I
steroids.
think this, so these are ginormous
That's a
apples.
melon. That's not an apple.
But here, David, unfortunately for you,
yes.
I must exact a penance from you if you want this apple. So if you want this, you see how beautiful this is, right? And
Right.
it's delicious. If you want this apple, okay, you want this apple?
I do.
I need you to say on air that we should demolish Olympic Stadium. Go ahead.
We should, I
Yes.
think, do major
Yes.
work on the Olympic Stadium.
I'm not giving you this apple. That's ridiculous. Just
I'm
ridiculous.
seeing a whole Garden of Eden
It's
going on
ridiculous
thing with
here.
the apple.
Take the
and
apple.
I'm not. I don't want your apple. Keep your apple.
I'm going to leave it there. You have half an hour
I
to
will
reconsider.
not
You have half an-
betray the Olympic Stadium.
You have half an hour
You
to
will not
reconsider.
get me with food.
Half an hour. Trudy, how goes? Anyways, take a bite and during the break and then tell them and then maybe we can convince them. Guys, okay, apples are done. Second thing on the agenda. Moment of silence. Can we have a moment of silence? Here we go. For Bombardier. There you go. That was the moment of silence, by the way. What are your thoughts this morning? Sorry, Drew, we threw this in. I didn't even tell Trudy. I told David just now. I didn't even tell Trudy. Bombardier, the A220 series, now that's completely out of their hands. Quebec government's keeping their 25%. I sort of said moment of silence. I do feel for employees of Bombardier. I'm sure they're looking at their futures and we're wondering what's going to happen. But if they're selling the planes like the A220, that's sold. They want to get rid of the rail division. What's left?
Not much.
What's left?
You can't fault the company though, because I want that company to be profitable. That company has, how much in debt? $9 billion in debt.
It's
And-
insane. The management has been terrible, right?
And I've really hated this whole feeling in commercial aviation. This whole you have to pay to play approach to doing business in that sector that has led, grant after grant after grant coming from governments into that company. So I'm glad they're getting out of it. Because what they would have just continued to be a bottomless pit of demands for government help. I'm not so worried about the employees. The government in the A220 is keeping a 25% stake. The province does, so that should come with it. You would think some heft to keep the jobs here in Quebec. You'd hope anyway.
Bombardier played a big game with major players. And in terms of government help, yes, Bombardier has had a lot of issues with that and the payment of the executives, and we don't have time to go through all that went wrong. But if you're going to build airplanes, you need a lot of money, and governments are involved. Airbus has government help. Boeing has government help.
So is the problem
Embraer in Brazil had government help. The problem is you need a lot of capital to develop planes. It's a lot of jobs. Governments cannot resist, regardless of the party, regardless of where we are in the world. This is a lot of jobs. This is a high-paying job sector, and there are thousands, literally thousands of jobs which directly and indirectly were generated by this. Yes, there were a lot of taxpayer dollars. And the fact is that they developed an amazing plane by everybody's standards. Talk to anybody, independent experts on this. The C-Series, which is now the A220, is the best plane in the world, far ahead of anything else in its category. But the thing is that Bombardier couldn't play ball with the big guys, the two big guys, Boeing and Airbus, and got caught with it.
To your point, is it that Quebecers, we wouldn't have the kind of bailouts and dollars that the U.S. gives Boeing and that Airbus and Embraer get from their countries? We wouldn't accept it here. So the fate was sealed by that, maybe.
Well, Embraer went down also. I mean, with the Brazilian economy, Embraer was one of the victims. But the fact is that the only savior at one point was Airbus. Yeah. And Airbus now has a foothold in North America, which is Boeing's ground. So this is interesting. And the jobs are guaranteed for several years now. And Quebec still has a share. But you have to look at the overall picture. And for decades, we developed an industry now that is very important, that has a lot of other companies. Like, look at Aerodeftek. Aerodeftek, not a lot of people know this, but they make the landing gears for almost all the jets in the world from all the big major companies, both military and commercial.
Okay, guys, let's get into these anti-pipeline protests. And I guess the question I have is reconciliation dead? If we clearly can't come to an agreement here, at the end of the day, there's going to be, police or government that's going to come in and remove these protesters. You've got a bit of a mess in trying to deal with the sort of the hereditary chiefs and the other groups, right? So, David, your face just said it, right? Is there a winning scenario here? Because if you don't get the pipeline, right, then the federal government's faced with a Western Canada and Alberta that's even more upset and more livid,
and an economic cost.
Yeah, so you can't win here.
Who's
going to pay the price?
Because there's an economic cost, and also what this sends to business, not only in the oil and gas sector. This project went through all the regulatory hoops, went all through all types of approvals, got the okay through everything. And on top of that, we're not hearing, and that's a point that's been made across Canada, the band councils, which are duly elected by the people that are part of the First Nations, support this. And so from a democratic point of view, this has First Nations support. It's the hereditary chiefs that are leading this opposition. Yeah. So on top of that, there's split within the First Nations. And so why aren't we hearing more about the band governments and their fact that they are for this? And that's a real problem, because we're giving most of the attention on the opposition, but we're not giving the same equal representation and visibility to those who support it.
Yeah, well, it is complicated, and I think that even Perry Bellegarde from the Assembly of First Nations has come out and said, at the root of all of this is the power struggle, and it is. Let's put a name on it. It is definitely a power struggle between the traditional hereditary chiefs and the band councils that were set up because the federal government wanted something more stable and democratic to deal with. So you've got this power struggle within that particular Aboriginal community and Aboriginal communities across across the country. We saw the same thing around the time of the Oka crisis here with the Mohawk communities in the Montreal area. So it's not new. And is there a solution? Well, I don't see how one can be arrived at. From our Western point of view, we would favor a democratically elected representation for Aboriginal communities, but there are people within those communities who say, no, that's imposed on us. That's a style of government that's alien to our way of life and alien to our traditions. How can the feds negotiate that when the Aboriginal group is divided?
It's between a rock and a hard place. That's what they are.
The stories the office is buzzing about. The Big Five on the Elias Macco Show.
All right, should Vince Guzzo run for the Conservative Party leadership? One of the topics we'll discuss on the Big Five at 9:05 in just a few moments. On the Big Five this morning, Trudie Mason, David Heurtel. First off, though, good news for Crescent Street, right, guys? New bars opening. It's a good sign, right? New business opening on Crescent Street. It's fantastic. It's great news. Well, not for everyone, because we need to get offended over something. This bar, which bills itself as an authentic Australian pub. And, when I think of authentic Australian stuff, I think of, Outback Steakhouse and
Fires.
And Foster's Beer, right? So this bar is called Ayers Rock, okay? It is owned by a French guy from France, and this is a chain. This is the fifth one that he's opening with this name, Ayers Rock. But of course, this name it has a meaning for a lot of Australians because it's the colonial name of what was now known as Uluru, and some people are upset. Say you can't name this bar, Ayers Rock. That's not the proper name. For me, I'm like, guys, it's a business. They just, it's a name. The guy's got a relationship to it. He went to Australia, fell in love. At that time, when he went to Australia, that's what it was called. He names the chain like that. He's got 5 other restaurants, 5 other bars with the same name. So, folks, what do you think? Isn't to me, the real outrage is the calories in the bloomin' onion and not the name of a bar. But maybe I'm wrong here.
I think they're going to do. Isn't it scallopini chicken that, or what is
they got the it's the
delicacy,
the cutlet there. What is it called?
It'll come to you.
Yeah. Schnitzel. It's a schnitzel.
Schnitzel.
Yeah, that's right.
An Aussie schnitzel.
An Aussie
apparently,
schnitzel, yeah.
That's a delicacy there. I am not easily offended by this type of stuff. I am not a knee-jerk snowflake online. I'm not part of cancel culture, but even I think this is dumb cultural appropriation. If the owner had been an Aussie, it would have been different. It would have been his fight to justify continuing to use a colonial name. He's not. He's an outsider. I don't care what it was called when he was there.
I think it's the opposite. I think if the guy was Australian, then I'd have an issue. But if it's just some French guy who doesn't know,
then he's accountable to his own people. It's not. But he's not. And he's not from there. And I do think that it's insensitive when he knows there's opposition and he knows that this name has now become...
So here's the thing. He has 4 other places that's never come up. And now they're getting bombarded on Facebook, of course, with opposition to this name for this new one. So, he didn't know because it's never come up in the other places that this is an issue.
I think he was well aware. And they say there was no opposition. We don't know. They could have heard from people and just discounted. Oh, well, it's all trademark now and all the banners have to be the same. When chains start gathering momentum, they don't want to make any changes. Yep. I just think that the times have changed out from under this guy. There's an increasing awareness about it. You might want to move with the times on this question.
So don't go.
Yeah.
That's it. This is a private business. There's freedom of expression in this country. This does not rise to the level of hate speech, which is outlawed in this country. So if the guy does something dumb like this, then the market, the consumers, will make the decision of not going. On Crescent Street, a guy opened a Hooters. Mm-hmm. That didn't work very long. It's been closed for it's still there. The sign is still there.
Yeah.
But how long did that one last? Not long. The consumers decided they didn't have the taste for this. So sure, people can get all riled up. That's fine. But this is not public government. Mm-hmm. This is not like Amherst Street. This is not the same thing. This is private business, freedom of expression.
What if I open up Amherst Pub?
And the market will
decide.
decide. Consumers will decide.
You know, I agree with you in one respect, is that it will be the public who decides whether that guy made the correct decision or not. I'm arguing from a business perspective.
Oh,
I think he
fine.
made a mistake.
Okay, fine. No,
You know,
fair enough.
I'm not going to argue that he's engaging in hate speech. I think
no.
that's overstating the
That's
whole
it.
thing. You know, I just think he's made a business mistake.
Fair enough.
And also, businesses make mistakes when they don't move
do.
with the times.
Look,
they don't see the tide changing and move with it.
In the 1970s, GM marketed the Nova in Mexico. You know what Nova means in Spanish?
yeah.
Does not work. They made a mistake.
Yeah.
The market, nobody bought the car.
I think it's
They changed the name.
I think it's perfect for Crescent Street. I think they're going to be reasonably successful, except what I find out, they don't have like Australian beers on tap. That's the outrage. Australian pub, there's no Australian beers on tap.
They have as much to do with Australia as the Outback does, honestly.
That's it.
Come on. It's
The Bloomin' Onion.
man.
What's his name? Paul Hogan?
Hogan. Croc Dundee.
Listen, if they get Crocodile Dundee for the ads, maybe we'll reconsider. Okay. We didn't even talk about this, guys, and this is a whopper. Should the Quebec government, be engaging in forceful measures to protect French? Man, the PQ, they are trying to outflank the CAQ. They see that they're losing their bacon. And now it's like, let's withhold funding or reduce funding for English CJEPs so that nobody can go there, or francophones can't go there. They're getting really strict here. And there's of course some proposals that are being made, a bill in the National Assembly that PQ is suggesting to make sure that, try and verify, triple check that businesses don't say a job is bilingual when they don't actually need English for the position. How do you think this is going to play out? I mean, the CAQ, it seems to be willing to play ball in certain respects, no?
The slow, agonizing, long death of the PQ continues here. Because all that's left, and this is a function of parties having to go to their core to become, if somebody wants to become a leader of a party, the parties are disconnected with the general population. What's left of the PQ are the really hardcore pure et dure nationalists. And this is what they're trying to do to stay alive. But this has no traction. And the CAQ is continuing to eat their lunch on that front. And this is just, again, this is a function of also the leadership campaign. There's a lot of people trying to outflank each other on the nationalist front, being more nationalist, more pure et dure than the other. But this is just absurd.
This is a relatively young leadership candidate for the PQ. Why is it that young people are so authoritarian? I thought they were, young people are the ones who are supposed to be liberal and open to new. He's saying, oh yeah, we're going to bring things in that we know are going to be, unpopular. He wants to declare a language emergency. Taking a page
That's
out of the
right.
Greta Thunberg playbook. It riles me because the previous PQ government under Pauline Marois abandoned this whole notion of extending mandatory French language education for new arrivals and francophones through CJAD because they realized that once you turn 18 and you're an adult, you don't take kindly to a government pushing you around in terms of your educational choices.
Plus a charter rights issue.
Yeah, so this guy is trying to do an end run around that. What he's saying is he wants to cap the funding of Anglophone CJEPs at the proportion of Anglophones in the population.
Yeah.
So now it's not the government saying to Francophones and Allophones, you can't go there. It's the CJEP being forced to say to prospective students, I'm sorry, you have to show me your eligibility certificate because otherwise we're not going to have money for you.
It's a great way of figuring out who to give an English Hydro bill 5 years later.
He's talking to the 10,000 PQ members left.
Yeah.
Who do you think still buys a PQ membership card? Hardcore to the bone nationalists.
Do you remember when it was last week on the show, I said, when you meet like a 22-year-old conservative, to me, like alarm bells go off. Like, I understand being 40 years old and being conservative because you want to protect your money. Same thing happens to me when I meet like a 21-year-old, 23-year-old, like ultra-nationalist, pro-sovereignty person still in Quebec, because the vast majority of people in their early 20s are like writing in English and they've embraced English and it's their social media.
Non-issue.
Sort of like gets me going like, ooh, something's off with this person. Yeah. And I think that's it, right? That's
But
why
that's all that's left in the PQ.
and that's why the youth wing, I was like, oh, PQ youth wing, fresh ideas. It was the same old ideas. Okay. Vince Guzzo, guys. I love this. Vince Guzzo says he'll run for the Conservative Party leadership if there are no better options. So, he gets his name in the papers again. I think he loves that. But do we need Quebec's Kevin O'Leary to shake things up in the Conservative Party?
Well, could the race get any worse?
So boring.
You could have, he could. Richard Descaries could make another interview.
Yeah, that's right. That's
with
right.
Evan Solomon.
That's right. Yeah. No, but I mean, seriously, you look at, Peter MacKay and Aaron O'Toole, and you're like, oh, God, save us from
But
something.
have we heard any ideas from this guy? I haven't heard any ideas. He's mulling about, he's a successful business guy out of Quebec. Maybe he has some ideas for bringing the country together. I don't know.
Yeah.
Shouldn't we give him a chance?
Yeah, he would bring a lot of excitement to the race.
Yeah.
Now, having to talk about real issues and go out west and actually, doing some real politicking, that's going to be a challenge. But the thing is that right now the race is very, very, very dull,
Guys,
boring, and it's going nowhere. Actually.
What happens to the human brain that the moment you're in, Shark Den or Dragon Tank or whatever they're called, the moment you're in these shows, now you think you can run for leadership? Like, you're celebrity.
Because of Trump.
Yeah.
Because of The Apprentice. Because of The Apprentice. You have a model. That's what business people do. They do, there's a business case that worked, so maybe it can work for me. But it's not a guarantee, but it gives them an opportunity to self-promote, and that's what Vince Guzzo is very good at.
He's good at self-promotion, and just like, when the Alouettes were for sale, right? And he came out, I'm thinking about buying the, and I was like, he's not going to buy the Alouettes, but it was a great way to get the name out.
There you go. Free publicity.
But I still want
talking about
But
it.
let me tell you, I still want him to run. Like, please,
Oh,
save
that'd
us
be
from,
amazing.
Save us from this.
If
leadership
John
race.
Baird doesn't run, he has to run. Because if John Baird runs, then it brings a lot of gravitas to the race. A lot of it's going to bring some excitement. He speaks French, which none of the current candidates do, because what Peter MacKay spoke is not French. And so now you'd have a real race, and John Baird brings that heft. But if not, Vince would be great.
But back to Guzzo. Do you look at Guzzo and say, hey, you know what? This is a guy that could connect with those socially progressive, fiscally conservative people in Ontario, Quebec? Or do you see Kevin O'Leary 2.0? And we saw, last time around, Kevin O'Leary.
He's a Mulroney type conservative. Yeah. His problem is, will he connect with the western part of the party, which controls the party right now?
Yeah.
That's social conservative.
He's going to have to change his wardrobe completely to connect with Western Canada.
I think you have to have him on the show right away, Elias, so he can school us on how to pronounce his name.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because every time in the newsroom we run a story about the theater chain, it's Gutso or variations on the same. So
we actually have a call out. We're trying to get him on the show because I think he's good radio at the very least. Hey guys, last chance, David. What should we do with Olympic Stadium? Here's the apple.
We should be proud of the Olympic Stadium.
Take the apple.
It's our symbol.
Take the... Fine. No apple for you. 1 year.